All right, so here we have a 2004 Toyota Tacoma two-wheel drive. This one we're going to be doing front brakes, rotors, calipers on. But we want to take a look at the rear brakes. The customer has asked us to see what the condition of the rear brakes are and then to adjust them if needed. So we're going to go ahead and then remove this drum. There's several different ways to remove the drum. One way, this is a little too rusty, is there is a bolt size, fits inside of one of these holes. You would run the bolt in, move it to the other one, run the bolt in, and it will kind of walk the rotor off. We may use that. That is one way. We're going to go ahead and give a little PB blaster. All right. So basically just use that hole to press the drum off. All right, so some of the things we're looking at on the drum, you can see it's really shiny. The shiny, this is super smooth. This is going to make some squeals. We want to look for a ridge. That would be that our drum material has worn out so much that it gives us a ridge. So all in all, other than being super shiny, hard on the brakes here, we're looking pretty good. So here we have our brake pads, our shoes, our front one and our rear one. This is our wheel cylinder. When we push the brakes, it pushes this out and that applies the brakes. This is our parking brake lever right here. So for checking brakes out, the rule of thumb would be the backing material judged to the brake material. So the backing size to the brake, we have quite a good distance, so we're pretty good. Sometimes they have rivets in them. You know, if you get close to the rivet, that would be the end of it. But rule of thumb is when the pad becomes the same as the backing plate size, the brakes are no good. We're going to go ahead and clean this up. One of the other things we're going to do is we're going to adjust. So there's a little star adjuster right here. As we spread it, we spread the bar out, make the brakes tighter. So right now we would have no brakes applied and we're not even touching. So we want to adjust that star so that it's got a slight drag on the brakes. That way once we apply it, it's a full braking stop. So we'll go ahead and pop the other drum off and then spray some brake clean there and let everything clean up, dry up. If we had any leaks, just kind of squeezing right here, this is where our leaks would be coming from. So you'd have a lot of buildup of brake fluid. That would mean that you would need to replace the wheel cylinder. All right, so now we want to adjust the rear brakes. This little spreader bar here with the star, this is what does your adjustment for your brakes. It does a self-adjustment in reverse and then also with the parking brake. But we're going to go ahead and give it an adjustment. So there's a little rubber cover on the back side that gives you an access point. They do make a brake spoon. It's kind of a bent flathead screwdriver style. But we're going to snake it through the hole so we can turn the drum. And we're going to just turn it upward, or we'll be turning it downward. So it'll click. And that for every click we're adding threads, so we're spreading the bar. So we'll go ahead and put the drum back on, and we're gonna spin that until we get a nice smooth touching of the brakes to the drum. All right, so we're gonna turn the axle as we adjust. All right, so we just probably put maybe 10 clicks in it, and now we have that slight drag, so it's got the pad closer, so there's not so much fluid has to move for the brakes to work. So now we have these adjusted. We'll go ahead and we'll adjust the other side, and then we'll start on the front. All right, so here we are at the front of the vehicle. We're going to be replacing, this is all pretty rusty here, all of our slides. Our brake pad is almost non-existent there. We're going to be replacing this whole caliper and the hardware with a new rotor. The only other thing we could do is, replace the brake hose here. There is no cracks or anything like that, so other than the rust, we don't see any real signs of this being bad. If we had one brake caliper wearing the brakes worse on one side than the other, then we would suspect the line as being a check valve and not letting the caliper, swell back out after the brakes were applied. So we're going to go ahead and remove the caliper and the rotor now. Okay, so one of the things we do want to notice before we put the new rotor on is we want to make sure that this surface doesn't have any huge bubbles of rust. If it did, we would be sandwiching it there, and that would give us a little wobble. So we just make sure that all of our surfaces are clean. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and put the new caliper on. The hardware we're going to use, we'll still reuse the mounting bolts. The only thing I don't think you've seen, I did wash this rotor off. It does have like an anti-corrosion film on it. If we leave the film on, we could give ourselves like just a slight brake noise for a little period of time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and my focus will be to get this line attached back. So we're going to have two copper washers. All right, so we have two supplied copper washers. Go ahead and put one on. Then through our banjo bolt, the other one. Pull out our little plug. Go ahead and attach this line, and we'll tighten this line down too. And we'll come back to the fluid and do a drain, bleed and fill. All right, so we have a couple pieces of hardware that were supplied. Oh, it looks like we got a new banjo bolt. We'll go ahead and swap that banjo bolt out for the new one real quick. All right, so now we want to put our brake pads in. The other way. Couple sets of new hardware. All right, so we want to be the pins go the other way. Okay, so we have our 2 alignment holes here, and then we slip in here and that holds the pins in. And this keeps the pads spread apart. We're all set with this one. We'll go do the other side and then we'll bleed the system out. All right, so here we're back at the master cylinder. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we don't lose fluid in the master while we're doing the bleeding. So we haven't lost much fluid just changing the calipers. So we just want to make sure we don't run this dry, so we'll keep an eye on it. We're going to go back and we're going to open up our bleeder valves on our calipers. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open up our bleeder screws. What we're going to do is we want to see a pretty good drip. See, we're already starting to get something. So we want to open the other side up. This is gravity, basically a gravity bleed. All right, so it looks like this side here we got a pretty good flow. We're still waiting for the driver's side. We'll go ahead and tighten that up. We wanted to make sure, you know, we don't have any leaks around our fittings, things like that. All right, so we're just now starting to get the other side to start dripping. We'll just give it a second more to drip. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and tighten up. We got some drips here now. Now we're gonna go ahead and do a bleed the system. All right, so we'll go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and give the brake pedal a couple, 1 or 2 slow pumps, and we'll be able to see while we're absorbing the gap in the brakes there. Go ahead and give it 2 slow pumps. Okay, so you can see we just took up some pressure there. Okay, go ahead and give it another pump and hold it down. Right, down. All right, so now it's down, we're going to go ahead and open the bleeder up. All right, so we got a bunch of air out that one. All right, go ahead and let it up. All right, press it down and hold it. Holding it. All right, so we got a little bit of air out of that one. And then some stream. We'll go ahead and do that again. Let it up and give it another pump and hold. Holding. All right, I just seen another little bubble come out there. We'll go ahead and do that again. All right, another time. Until we get a nice smooth stream with no bubbles. So now we got this side all done. We'll go ahead and do the other side. I'll top off our fluid and then we'll put the wheels on and give it a test drive.